Greetings, my friends. I am Drak, and welcome to this final episode of Drak Vlogs for Luke Cage. We are down to the final two episodes, and now I get to talk about them. I actually just barely saw them last night, and kind of wanted to let the reaction kind of sink in, and let me kind of figure out how I felt about it. So this episode of the Drak Vlogs is going to be a little bit different because I'm not necessarily going to go over every single thing that happened in the episodes. I'm more going to try and go over what this season finale was supposed to resolve, because that's really what a finale is supposed to do. It's supposed to provide a resolution for the stories that are going on in that entire season. And here's the thing: not everything got resolved. So I'm going to try and recount the events as best as I can. So again, there's a big spoiler warning for those who haven't seen Luke Cage Season 1 yet. If you haven't and you want to, pause the video and go check it out. That being said, here we go. As far as episode, because in a lot of cases, I don't necessarily consider a season finale to just be one episode, because there's always a lead up into it. And at that point, then you have kind of the season finale story beginning like 2 or 3 episodes before, and then a big climax either ending at that episode before or in that episode kind of thing. It's always a bigger story that's being told. And this is no different. This basically tried to do a final confrontation with Cottonmouth, to be able to do a final confrontation and confront Mariah Dillard. It also tried to give us some credibility, not credibility, but some resolution with Shade's situation and all of the other people involved. Claire, Candace, the waitress, Misty Knight, or Detective Misty Knight. It tried to cover all of the bases as much as it could, but also try to set up for a season 2. Because it feels very much like they're trying to set up a Luke Cage season 2, or at the very least, trying to set things up for the Defenders. That being said, here's basically how they went about it. The biggest plot line, obviously, is Luke, and Luke's confrontation with Willis Stryker, aka Diamondback, which... Let's see, I'm trying to think where it started in the episode before that. Most of it was basically Diamondback's empire falling apart, and from Luke's end, it was remembering, I'm guessing were good memories for him. It was a little unclear, but it felt like they were good memories. Like, this is stuff that Luke kind of treasured. It was also Luke kind of coming to the realization that, because he came to this about 4 episodes before, which is like, I am my brother's keeper. This is my responsibility. But when you break things down, I mean, Willis is accountable for every single thing he's done. And at that point, it's difficult to say Luke is responsible for that because Luke created him. Well, no, Willis kind of created Willis. And at that point, I think they did a nice resolution to be able to say that that's the case. I also think that they did a really great job to setting up Willis as being a potential supervillain, because that's what happens later on. We actually find out that the gauntlet that he has is actually part of a big suit, very reminiscent of the original the original Diamondback. I actually had to go look this up and see if Diamondback actually did have a uniform similar to it, and it did. The helmet was a little weird, but it did have a similar look. Basically, in order for Willis to be able to combat Luke, he had to have superpowers, and so they had a really great knockdown, drag-out match in the middle of Harlem. I love the fact that Netflix tried to sell it as battling for the soul of Harlem, and really, I actually would say no, it wasn't. It was them resolving their own issues, and that's what made it awesome. With ultimately Luke winning the day. You know, Luke winning the day and winning the match over Willis, and that kind of falls short as far as I'm concerned, because as soon as Willis loses, he looks very bruised and broken and kind of out there. He's like, either he's in shock or he's in like a coma, kind of like what they did with Daredevil season 1, how Kingpin looked after his empire fell apart, except he recovered, and Willis doesn't really. So at that point, I think there was a great resolution there for Luke, but Willis maybe setting him up for another villain run. I don't think so, because it doesn't really feel like that's where they were going with it. I did, however, like the moment when Misty came up to him and said the exact same things that he had said before he tried to execute her in order to get a rise out of her, and this is the thing that's been kind of dominating her mind lately. So I like that. I like that payoff to be able to have her say the exact same things. Look at you don't want to look at me just a little. I liked how they pulled that off. And then we also had Luke's kind of resolution that he has done. So when we began the series, he was interested in running. Like, he wasn't interested in facing his past or anything like that. And that's kind of the message that got sent in the last episode, is that he's done running. He's done running away from his past. He's going to embrace it. He's going to face it. And it resolves in the fact that he doesn't get arrested by the police. He goes in to make an official statement, except we find out that Mariah Dillard has put in a APB or something like that for Carl Lucas, and so we have federal marshals coming back and wanting to bring him back to the state of Georgia to finish his time. And so he actually agrees to it, which I thought that was the greatest way to be able to end that, because I didn't want to have like a loophole or anything like that be pulled out. Although they did kind of hint that Claire was going to call up either Foggy or Matt Murdock to be able to bail him out. I thought it was a great idea for him to go into the car and for him to get driven down to Georgia. I think that's the way that things needed to end, is like he'd spent 80% of this series running, and now he needed to face his past. And he also did that with the phrase that kind of gets hammered into us throughout the whole series from Pops, never backward, always forward. Except I liked his version of it, is sometimes in order to go forward, or sometimes you have to go backward in order to go forward. I did like that. So Luke had great resolution as far as I'm concerned with what he was trying to deal with, including the fact that when he was facing off with Diamondback, he eventually just said, enough, I don't want to fight you anymore. And he still won the match. Like, he didn't want to kill him. He didn't want to fight him. He just said, I'm done with this. I'm done with dealing with you. And that was a great way to be able to resolve that storyline, is that eventually he just said, screw it, I'm done with you. Shades' situation was a little weird, but kind of sets him up to be a potential villain later. So they basically have him get caught in the whole hostage situation. Then he gets bailed out by Diamondback, only to go to Diamondback's warehouse and almost have one of Cottonmouth's former goons, but now works for Diamondback, Zip, try to kill him in order to get his position. And Shades kills him, and then basically goes gung-ho with Mariah Dillard. They actually hatch a plan to be able to side with Luke in this battle with Diamondback and say, if you can take out Diamondback for us, then we will do this and this and this for you. One in particular was they had a full-on file on Carl Lucas that they were going to hand over to him so that he could either keep the truth hidden or he could actually prove his innocence, kind of thing. And one of the ways that gets resolved also that I did like, where I can't remember his name, but the guy who's been helping financially with the barbershop, he actually hid the Carl Lucas file. I thought that was a really nice touch, so that eventually maybe this is the way that Luke gets out of prison for the Defenders. I don't know. So Shade's future is unclear, but it's obviously paired with Mariah Dillard. Well, actually, no, it's not clear, because it is kind of clear. He's paired up with Mariah Dillard. I think he's going to be like her enforcer, and she's basically going to be Mama Mabel now. She is going to run Harlem's Paradise, as well as run her own kind of crime empire. With that being said, let's go into Mariah Dillard. Mariah actually, I thought that was going to be the prime resolution that we were going to get, is that she was going to go to prison. She gets arrested, but then basically everything, the way that things have been piling up is that Candace finally has had enough of lying, and she goes to talk to Detective Knight about it, and they get an actual taped statement from Candace. So it's like, she's dead to rights. All that has to happen is she needs to go onto the witness stand, and unfortunately, this is also where Shades comes in, because he takes care of this loose end too by killing Candace and basically making sure that Mariah can't be arrested or she can't go to trial, she can't be convicted with this. Which is a bigger thing for Misty Knight, but we'll get to her in a second. Mariah Dillard eventually rebuilds Harlem's Paradise and basically becomes either Mama Mabel or Cottonmouth. Starts a really weird relationship with Shades, and I have a feeling she's going to be something that we will deal with in season 2. I'm kind of not happy with how that resolved, but I think it is a good setup for season 2 for her to be kind of the replacement for Cottonmouth, kind of being that low-end crime. Because I have a feeling, like, if you're going to build up season 2, I almost want the Kingpin to come back and be a problem for Luke, as well as Matt Murdock. So that's kind of what I would like to see out of the matter. Misty, I think, got a lot of character development because she's such a devout cop at the beginning of the series, and then the situation with Candace happens where she loses her phone at Pops because Pops gets blown up again due to Diamondback. She loses her phone, which Shades finds to hunt down Candace. And she realizes, at least to me, she realizes that the department that she's been treasuring this entire time is just as broken as the streets out there. And I was almost crying out for her to just put the shield, like put her badge down. To just put her badge down and be like a private eye. Which I'm kind of hoping happens in season 2. Like, she eventually goes to the conclusion that she cannot solve this situation while being a police officer. She needs to go and help in other ways. And that would have been a great way to be able to keep her in the series and also keep her as kind of an informant, or not an informant, but somebody who can work with Luke. But yeah, you literally see her, and props to the actress who did this. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but props to you, because when everything looks like Misty's world is falling down around her and burning, it's all coming apart at the seams for her. She looks like it. She looks shattered. She looks broken. She looks, her spirit is not there anymore. She doesn't have the will to keep going. And I thought that was really well portrayed. So much so that I was actually screaming at the TV, just like, put down the shield. You're done. You can't be a cop anymore. Because this is the reality of the situation. Because she gets to see Mariah Dillard walk after basically setting her up for a long, long stay in prison, and then having that one witness, that one cog in that machine fall apart, and it all goes away. So major props to the actress who pulled that off. You did a great job. Claire doesn't really, well, she gets kind of a resolution. It's more along the lines of Luke. She goes with Luke to make the statement at the police department and, just kind of be there for Luke. They also kind of hint at a possible romance between Luke, especially when he goes off with the federal marshals. They kiss. I don't know how legit that's going to be, but we'll see in season 2, because I have a feeling she'll have more of a role to play in that one. I don't see Claire coming back for like Daredevil season 3, or if they do Jessica Jones season 2, I don't see her being there either. I think she'll stay in the Luke Cage cast, and it makes sense for her to be there. But Claire is also one of those characters that didn't really need a resolution. She was always sticking to her convictions, and really she was more of a moral support character for Luke, and also for Jessica in a way in her series, than anything else. So there isn't really a whole lot of resolution to go for it, aside from she looks into getting self-defense lessons, which would make sense. She's a nurse, and she's seen, who knows how many supervillains at this point, so it makes sense for her to want to defend herself. I was kind of hoping that they would, because they did a lot of setup for Jessica Jones, that we were going to get like a superhero clinic, and that Claire was maybe going to run it, and not really. We didn't really get that. So I'm a little disappointed by that. Let's see, any other resolutions that we need to go over? Diamondback doesn't really need a resolution. I have a feeling he'll be back. Shades, I think, is going to be somebody we deal with in season 2. Same thing with Mariah Dillard. Or if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. I think that's pretty much covering all the resolutions. And I guess I'm just going to go ahead and bounce into my overall thoughts on the series. Yet another amazing job from Netflix and Marvel Studios. This is great. It does remind me so much of Daredevil Season 1 and trying to set up a lot of really great stakes for these characters. And I think it does a really good job of, if you're going to do a Luke Cage Season 2, it makes sense. I am going to say, however, there were a couple of points where the series faltered. There were a couple of moments that got a little too real for me, especially with given political situations and things like that I didn't need that as a reference. I get why they put them in there, but they didn't help for me. I wanted more just to explain the universe, explain the world, explain why Harlem means so much, especially to a kid from Georgia, aka Luke. So I wanted a little bit more there. But, I mean, aside from that, I mean, there were things I disagreed with on the other Netflix series, too. And it still comes together really, really well. As far as, like, my ranking of it, I did actually have somebody ask when I got to the end, like, would I rank it? I'm not going to rank things overall, but I will tell you this. Considering it's a hero that I know very little about, I'm going to put it fairly high. Like, right now, the best season that Netflix and Marvel had put out, to me, has been the first season of Daredevil. I loved how they set up the character. And that was a character I knew, and I felt like they did a really, really good job with it. I'm going to put Luke Cage a little below that. I think that was a really great attempt, with Daredevil Season 2 being like right below it, and maybe Jessica Jones kind of tied with it. I had a lot of issues with Daredevil Season 2 and Jessica Jones that kind of went in the same line. So, yeah, Luke Cage has been an awesome ride, and thank you guys so much for joining me on it. I look forward to the next series that we're going to get into. Just once again, I did put this out to subscribers, or to my subscribers and to people who watch my videos, on whether or not they wanted me to go backwards, because I still haven't seen Supergirl Season 1 and Flash Season 2. A lot of people have basically said, no, we don't really want that. And I'm completely fine with that, because then I can watch that at my own pace. But I will, to answer another question of, am I going to do another series? Yes. I think the next one that's going to be on my list is probably the next season of Voltron Legendary Defender, which I would really like to take on. So that'll probably be the next TV vlog that I do, but I'll probably keep it to just that, like stuff that's brand new. And then maybe you'll get my thoughts on Supergirl, like in the middle of Final Fantasy or something like that. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this vlog of Luke Cage. An amazing series, and my applause to the staff and the cast that were able to pull this off as well as they did. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, it's an amazing series. I wholeheartedly recommend it to anybody who is interested in it, which is hard for me because the Marvel Netflix series are hard to recommend, especially given the level of gore that some of them have. Thankfully, Luke doesn't have that much. I think it's way more doable than, say, Jessica Jones. So yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend it for those who haven't seen it and are interested. For those who are just barely looking into the next Netflix Marvel series, this is going to be one that I'd recommend too. I don't know how long it'll stay there because I'm really excited for Iron Fist next year, but that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey. And of course, I will see you guys next time for the next video.